single dad's shocking role at X's wedding revealed a hidden truth that left her incredibly moved. Mark stood at the edge of the small gathering, his heart a knot in his chest. The crisp autumn leaves whispered secrets to one another as people congratulated Claire, each cheer dripping with a bittersweet sting. He couldn't shake the tumultuous feelings flooding in. Memories of their love interwoven with resentment pulsed just beneath his skin. It was a wedding he never wanted to attend yet. As a devoted father, he had to set aside his feelings for their daughter, Lily, who glowed with excitement at her mother's side. A single father at his ex-wife's wedding, what did that say about him? He clenched his fists, recalling their divorce, the long nights, and the poker nights that had felt like a lifeline. Has she forgotten the family they could have raised together? Claire stood radiant as ever, an emblem of success. In contrast, Mark was just a carpenter in a small town, proud of his work yet feeling small against her towering achievements. As they exchanged vows, Mark's mind spiraled through conflicting emotions: pride, resentment, nostalgia, each one amplifying the tension in his chest. What role was he meant to play in this new chapter of Claire's life? Should he simply be the supportive father, the smiling ex-husband, or a man fighting his sense of worth? The weight of being just a carpenter gnawed at him. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the officiant began to pronounce them husband and wife, a commotion sent ripples through the crowd. Mark's attention jumped to Claire as her face paled. A letter slipped from her dress pocket, fluttering to the ground like an unexpected intruder. Silence engulfed the space, all eyes fell upon that letter. Was it an old relic or a buried truth? As Claire's hand trembled slightly, her father's recognizable handwriting sprawled across the page stirred something deep within him, a memory long cast aside. It was a legacy entwined with their past, a revelation that could unsettle the very foundation of what they thought they had moved beyond. Mark's pulse raced. Did this letter contain truths they had both buried? Would it open old wounds or forge unexpected bonds? Mark could see the confusion and fear in Claire's eyes, mirroring his own. The laughter and joy from moments before melted away, leaving a tense atmosphere pregnant with unspoken questions. A long-buried truth loomed like a storm cloud, and he was unsure if it would rain on this parade or cleanse a history festooned with bitterness. What did it mean for them to finally confront the legacy that had tied them together for so many years? Could this be the moment they redirected their tangled fates, or would it separate them once and for all? As the crowd buzzed in murmurs, both Claire and Mark stood on the precipice of transformation, grappling with an old flame flickering back to life in the twilight of shared glances and reluctant realizations. Mark's heart raced as the silence stretched, enveloping the gathering in an uncomfortable tension. He felt the weight of the crowd's eyes, 1,000 unspoken questions swirling like autumn wind among the branches. The letter sat on the ground, a tangible reminder of the past they both shared, yet struggled to leave behind. Should he intervene? Should he comfort Claire, or would that only complicate things further? He was still tethered to his role as a father, the protector of their daughter who watched with wide eyes, and he felt a profound urge to shield Lily from whatever storm was brewing. However, the silent drama between Claire and the letter beckoned, calling out to a part of him that had long been dormant. Mark shifted slightly, unsure of his next move, torn between his protective instincts and the growing need to unravel the tangled web of their history. Claire bent down, her fingers brushing against the delicate paper as if it were both sacred and hazardous. Mark's breath caught as she hesitated, her eyes welling with an amalgamation of emotion. This was not merely about the letter, it was a confrontation with everything they had built and subsequently lost. I can't, Claire finally whispered, lifting her gaze toward him. The confession hung heavy in the air. He had watched her navigate her success with a confidence that both amazed and intimidated him. But in this moment, vulnerability washed over her, an honest reflection of what lay beneath her exterior. Mark felt a surge of empathy. "You don't have to face it alone," he said softly, surprising himself with his own courage. It was then that he recognized a flicker of the man he wanted to be, not just a carpenter but a partner in her journey toward understanding. Her eyes faltered, revealing a hint of the past they had carefully concealed. "It's my father," she said, each syllable laced with the weight of regret. "He wrote this just before everything fell apart. I thought I was done with it all." The significance of that revelation hit Mark like a tidal wave. This letter was not just about their divorce, but about the family dynamics that had long haunted Claire. Her strength had always been admirable, but now, seeing her exposed and raw, he realized he needed to be there for her, whether as an ally or an empathetic observer. "What if this is a chance?" Mark suggested, gesturing toward the letter on the ground. "Maybe this could help you find closure, or at least clarity." Claire studied him, her expression a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Mark felt the walls they had both erected begin to crumble as her uncertainty collided with his newfound resolve. The journey ahead still loomed ominously, but suddenly it seemed less threatening. Their daughter's laughter broke through the heavy moment, grounding them back to the present. Lily danced around them, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm swirling just beneath the surface. In that innocence lay a glimpse of hope, a reminder that whatever revelation the letter held, it could serve as a stepping stone toward healing. "Let us talk," Claire said at last, determination replacing her initial trepidation. The words weren't just an acceptance, they were an invitation. Mark felt a rush of blood to his face, nerves tingling with a mix of fear and anticipation. As they stood there, the letter still on the ground but the bond between them reigniting, Mark understood that the revelations ahead could very well alter the course of their lives for better or worse. And now, with Claire's willingness to confront the truths of their past, Mark realized the greatest challenge wasn't the letter itself, but unearthing the strength within him to fully participate in this complicated, entwined journey. As they moved to retrieve the letter together, he felt an unfamiliar courage surging through his veins. But what lay beneath could shatter their preconceived notions and reshape their future entirely. The thought sent a tremor of fear down his spine. What if confronting the truth revealed a side of themselves they weren't ready to face, either alone or together? Mark's fingers grazed the edge of the letter as he and Claire bent down together. Their hands brushed against each other, and the brief connection sparked a flicker of unspoken understanding. It felt as if they were on the precipice of something significant. But the reality of what awaited them within that letter loomed large. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked, carefully questioning whether they should dive into the murky waters of their shared history. Claire's gaze hardened momentarily, as if steeling herself for the impact, before she nodded. The decision weighed heavily in the air between them, fraught with potential heartbreak but also the open possibility of healing. "Let us sit," she suggested, eyeing a nearby bench where sunlight darted through the trees, creating a soft, dappled effect on the ground. The surroundings felt serene, a stark contrast to the tumultuous storm of emotions brewing within. Mark planted himself beside her, acutely aware of the vulnerability etched on her face. Claire unfolded the letter slowly, each creak of paper echoing their shared past. "It's just words," she murmured, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear as she struggled to find the courage to engage with what lay ahead. Mark leaned in closer, unsure of whether his proximity was helpful or intrusive. "Words have power," he replied softly, recalling the times when letters had shaped his own decisions, marked pivotal points in his life. "They can hurt, but they can also heal." Her eyes flickered to his, a silent appreciation for his willingness to support her without judgment. Mark felt an awkward pride swell within him. He was no longer just viewing this from the outside. He was challenged to fully participate, stepping into the role of a partner ready to confront pains long buried. As Claire began to read, her voice trembled, each word lancing through the air heavy with memory. Mark listened intently, observing the rise and fall of her emotions as she pulled memories from the depths of the letter. "I'm sorry," she choked out at one point, cutting herself off mid-sentence. "I wish I had confronted these feelings sooner." Her honesty struck him like a hammer. It wasn't easy for her, confronting her father's voice, its absence as gripping as its presence brought forth vulnerability that was rare and fragile. "Claire, it's okay to feel betrayed," he offered, emboldened by her openness. A small part of him recognized his own struggle of facing his past as well. The battles of his own childhood whispered in his mind, uninvited. This was not just about Claire's father, it was a universal pain of parental disappointment and the turmoil that could nest in family dynamics. I thought I had moved on, she admitted, the defensiveness slipping away like a shadow at dawn. But what if I never truly did? Mark inhaled deeply, impressed by her willingness to wrestle with such heavy emotions. It's a process, he soothed. And it's okay to start now. The realization began to piece together within him. Facing the past head-on was a sign of both courage and growth. The moment hung suspended, a raw openness bridging the distance that life had created between them. Mark contemplated his own barriers, the fear of repeating mistakes with Lily, pushing him to rise above his insecurities. He had often excused his own hesitations in moving forward, but today felt different. It felt real. Together, they wrestled with the letter, uncovering truths and discomforts that were better left buried. Each revelation threatened to disrupt their already shaky foundation, as if lifting a veil from their collective past forged in silence and avoidance. Suddenly, as Claire reached the letter's conclusion, her breathing quickened, and her eyes shone with unshed tears. I can't help but feel that confronting these memories might change everything, she whispered, the words laced with both fear and anticipation. Mark nodded, sharing the weight of her thoughts. They were both on the edge of transformation, burrowed in a history that could either define them or liberate them. But what came next loomed, a question mark tectonic in its potential. Then maybe that's exactly what we need, Claire, he replied, the taste of dread and excitement balled in his throat. In some corner of his mind, hopes and fears met in an uneasy truce. The line between their past and future began to blur. What might this new chapter bring? As he looked at her, he saw not just Claire, but the woman standing at the cusp of rediscovery, a woman he had been afraid would drift too far to catch. Are we ready for this? He asked, barely above a whisper, and in that critical moment, Mark realized perhaps the answer didn't solely depend on them. It might also hinge on the vulnerability and strength inherited through their child, interwoven in their journey to come. Would their next decision only deepen old wounds, or reveal a path forward akin to rebirth? The air around them felt charged as Mark and Claire shared that moment, the weight of uncertainty pressing down. Mark's pulse thrummed with a mix of anxiety and anticipation, echoing the life-altering decision that hung in the balance. Confronting their pasts was one thing, facing what lay beyond it was another. Claire's fingers still trembled as they held the letter, the emotional avalanche threatening to unleash once more. You know, my father was so wrapped up in his own world. I often wondered if he even noticed the impact of his absence, she said, voice so soft it barely broke the quiet of their surroundings. Mark observed her closely, sensitizing himself to the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. What might it mean for Claire to finally draw a line in the sand between her father's failures and her identity? He recalled the moments he had spent grappling with the realization that he too often let his own father's expectations churn like an unresolved tide, pushing him into roles he never embraced fully. Maybe, he started carefully, this is not just about what you felt then. It's also about what you choose to carry forward. He saw a flicker of realization in Claire's eyes, a hint that she understood his parallel struggle. I want to break that cycle, but her voice faded, and concern etched deeper into her brow. What if diving into this leaves me even more broken? It might not, though, he urged. What if, in facing this together, we strengthen each other instead? Claire's gaze fell to the letter once more, her breath faltered as if the words within demanded more courage than she had intended to give. They both sat in silence, hearts racing alongside the flutter of leaves above as the gentle breeze brought a breath of clarity. The confrontation she feared could blossom into collective healing. Mark was struck by the absurdity of their awkward intimacy, a shared wrestling with unquantifiable pain that could both elevate or fracture them. He wanted to be the sturdy foundation beneath her. But as each moment passed, he worried that his own shortcomings regarding Lily might resurface, blurring lines he was desperately trying to keep distinct. Maybe I've hidden behind my upbringing too long, Claire said finally, her voice steadying with each word. It's suffocating. I want to break free, but I don't know how. She looked at him, eyes glistening with a determination that spun his insides. Then let us break together, he suggested, feeling a surprising resolve building within him. What if we used this opportunity not just to uncover your past, but to reshape our future? Mark realized he was looking beyond Claire's struggles, resonating deeply with her desire for change, an epiphany rising in him that mirrored her need for liberation. As they sat together, the vibrant colors of the setting sun painted the park in shades of gold and amber, an ironic complement to their emotional excavation. For the first time in years, Mark felt a flicker of hope. "Do you think," Claire began, her voice gaining strength, "that confronting my father could redefine how I handle things with Lily? I don't want to repeat that history." Mark's heart raced. The thought was profound. It definitely could. Facing our fears arms us with insights we never had before. When you embrace your vulnerabilities, you'll become more equipped to guide her. The dialogue opened the door to deeper reflection, a door that Mark now sensed they both needed to walk through. Was this rekindled connection not just a means to tackle Claire's past, but a parallel path for him too? The notion of wrestling wisely with his own shortcomings intrigued him. Feeling bolstered by their conversation, Claire turned to him. "You truly think so?" "I can't fathom that yet." Mark met her gaze. "The moment of truth is coming, Claire. And while change may take time, I believe we can navigate it together, for us and for Lily." A smirk tugged at his lips as they both shared a glance of newfound commitment. The journey to address the roots of disappointment felt daunting yet exciting. "But," he added, a tremor in his voice, "let us not just rely on today. There's more we must uncover." What lay buried beneath the surface of their relationships, waiting to be revealed? The thought lingered heavily in the air, a question that demanded exploration, a challenge enticing their joint resolve. As they stood up, letter in hand, the road ahead began to intertwine sharply with the legacy they were about to reshape, one that would tug at the bindings of secrets long kept. Their next conversation awaited a heart-wrenching exploration of revelation and vulnerability. Would they be ready to fully confront what lay undiscovered beneath the surface? Mark felt an unexpected resolve surge within him as they prepared to grapple with their pasts. The commitment to unearth the hidden truths stretched itself before him like a tangled path, chaotic yet filled with promise. Turning slightly, he caught Claire's eyes, reflecting a mix of determination and fear. She was right there with him, a partner in this audacious journey. "Claire," he said, his voice steady, "what matters is that we're committed to doing this together. Let us not just focus on your father's absence but also on what we can learn from it. Can we turn those lessons into something that protects Lily?" Her brow furrowed at the thought. "Protecting her is my main concern. If I fail to break this cycle, I risk repeating the same mistakes." Mark nodded, understanding the weight of her words. It was a familiar struggle, the cycle of familial expectations and disappointments. He had spent years avoiding confrontation, hoping that time and distance would heal the wounds left by his own father. But in this moment, he realized that avoidance had only entangled him further. "Let us meet with Lily tonight. We can talk to her about what we're discovering, what we're feeling," he offered, convinced that honesty could bridge gaps that silence had deepened over the years. Claire's eyes widened, a flicker of anxiety crossing her face. "But what if she reacts poorly? I don't want to further confuse her." "Then we approach it gently," Mark reassured her. "We share our truths slowly, leaving room for her feelings. It's not about laying our burdens on her, it's about weaving her into our process." A moment of uncertainty wrapped around Claire, but then she squared her shoulders, determination settling in. "You're right. Lily deserves to understand that we're both working on this together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows that played across their path, Mark felt the gravity of their decision. They were crossing an irrevocable threshold together, signaling a shift not just in their relationship but in how they would approach parenting. Childhood wounds have a way of shaping people, often distorting their perceptions and decisions. Mark knew all too well that acknowledging their origins could light the way to healing. With the possibility that they might be better for Lily, he felt a tremor of hope emerge. After making their plans, they took a moment to collect themselves, nerves taut with anticipation. "I need to prepare myself too," Mark confessed, reflecting on the layers of his own history. "Sorting through my own feelings about my dad would help. I can't let his shadows dim my relationship with Lily." Claire listened intently, realizing that her own journey intertwined with his. Each revelation would test their courage but, she hoped, would also forge connection. I suppose we're not just trying to help Lily understand us, we're learning to understand ourselves too, she said, a newfound clarity brightening her expression. Mark offered a slight smile. Exactly. We're allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, and in doing so, we gain strength. The hour drew nearer, and the tension mingled with anticipation. Walking side by side toward home, there was an air of optimism. They weren't merely confronting past disappointments. They were harnessing the potential for a brighter future, not just for themselves but for Lily as well. Lily was playing quietly in her room when they arrived. The comfort and love radiating from her presence felt almost protective, a reminder of why they were embarking on this journey. Taking a deep breath, Mark exchanged a glance with Claire before they stepped into their daughter's space. "Hey, sweetheart," Claire's gentle voice broke through the hum of childhood innocence. "Can we talk?" Mark's heart pounded as he realized they were on the brink of something significant, an opportunity to nurture a deeper connection with Lily, illuminated by honesty and shared vulnerability. The moment had arrived. But would they be able to find the words to truly convey their depths? As Claire began to speak, Mark's mind raced. What truths would surface tonight, and how would they shape their futures? The journey held both promise and peril, and the path from here was anything but clear. The room felt smaller as Claire spoke, her voice steady yet tinged with vulnerability. Mark watched Lily's face twist from curiosity to concern as she processed her mother's words. There was a curtain of innocence across her features, which only intensified Mark's sense of urgency. This moment carried the weight of their combined histories and the potential for a fresh start, yet every syllable felt heavy, laden with implications. Mark hadn't anticipated how exposed he would feel in this muted interplay of family dynamics. Claire was unraveling threads of her past, intertwining their narratives in a climax of honesty that demanded Mark's participation. He sensed a mounting pressure in his chest, the fortress around his emotions beginning to crack under the weight of this intimate revelation. As Claire spoke of her father's absence, Mark felt the stirring of remembrance. His own father had loomed large in his life, a relentless figure whose expectations had cut deep and left scars he hadn't fully confronted. The irony of them both grappling with similar demons poked at him. Here was Claire facing her ghosts, and he found himself caught between the past and present, his need to support her clashing with his own emotional tumult. "Lily," Claire continued, her voice softening, "we want you to know that our pasts aren't just stories that have to stay buried. They can shape us, yes, but they don't have to define who we are. We're committed to breaking that cycle for you." Mark's pulse quickened. It was now or never. He cleared his throat, grappling with the words that felt foreign on his tongue. "Sweetie," he said, voice low but steady, "I need to share a bit about how everything has shaped me too." He paused, allowing clarity to settle over the moment. "Your mom and I are working to understand our own pasts, to ensure that we're better parents for you." Lily blinked, her forehead wrinkling as she tried to untangle the complexities of their admission. Mark recognized that look. It was the same curiosity he had seen in her vibrant drawings, shapes and colors that hinted at deeper meanings. "Are you sad?" she asked quietly, and in her innocent probing, Mark felt the sweet tug of responsibility. "It's more than just sad, honey. It's complicated," Mark responded, grappling for a simplification that wouldn't diminish the gravity of their discussion. "But it's also a part of being human. We all have stories, don't we?" "Yeah, but sometimes I wish things were different," Lily replied. Her voice held a weight of understanding that could easily elude someone her age. Mark felt a sharp twinge of pain at her honesty. The very subject they were trying to face, the fracture of their own childhood experiences, was echoing painfully in her innocence. "I understand, and sometimes those feelings can surprise us," he said, his voice gaining a sense of reassurance. "All we can do is learn and grow. That's the journey we're on together." Claire reached out and squeezed Mark's hand, a silent acknowledgement that they were united in their vulnerability. He could see the shift in her demeanor, her anxiety slowly melting into a deep-seated resolve. They were using this moment to not only confront their own shadows but to help Lily navigate the emotional landscape of their pasts without holding on to the burdens alone. But beneath the surface, unease swirled within Mark's mind. How would these revelations reshape their daughter's view of her own family history? Would their decision to unearth these truths ultimately empower her, or would it leave her questioning her safety in the fabric of family? As the conversation evolved, Mark felt a stirring realization their efforts could either pave the way for Lily's strength or unleash a storm of repressed emotions. And as Claire finished, saying they were committed to navigating through adversity together, he caught Lily's gaze, filled with echoes of comprehension and uncertainty. Beyond them, the setting sun cast long shadows across their small family nucleus, a visual metaphor that both fascinated and terrified him. Just then, a faint knock at the door shattered the heaviness. Mark's heart raced as he exchanged glances with Claire. Who could that be at this hour? His mind raced with possibilities until the door creaked open. Standing there was someone Mark had not seen in years, a figure from his past that threatened to redefine everything they had just built. His throat tightened. Was this the reckoning he had been avoiding all along? The path ahead became dreadfully unclear, and with it, the origins of their emotional struggle lay ready to test their newfound resolve. The shadow at the doorway brought a chill that shot through Mark's spine. He blinked, unsure if he could trust his senses. The figure stood framed against the dim light of the hallway, eyes wide with a mix of surprise and something unreadable. Tom, he finally managed, the name barely escaping his lips. Standing before him was his estranged brother, a man whose absence had left gaping holes in their family narrative. Memories of childhood of laughter mingled with rivalry flashed before his eyes, a kaleidoscope of emotions threatening to drown him. Mark, Tom replied, his voice a rusty echo of familiarity. Claire shifted beside him, confusion etched on her face. You know each other? Mark briefly met her gaze, feeling the weight of every unspoken word between him and Tom, every grievance that had never been aired. This was the man who had fled, choosing distance over resolution. He had tried to convince himself that he didn't need Tom, but how wrong he had been. Yeah, we're brothers, Mark said, the words coming out rough. I thought you were gone. I might as well have been, Tom interjected, stepping tentatively into the room, glancing at Claire and then at Lily, who was now peeking curiously to assess the tension. The room grew tighter as silence reigned, heavy and suffocating. Mark hadn't anticipated that this moment would come at a time when he was just beginning to make sense of his emotional landscape. Now, all the confrontations he had buried deep within were clawing to the surface. Why now? Mark asked, his voice sharper than intended. After all this time, why show up? Tom shifted uncomfortably. I heard about your family. A wedding. I know it might seem too late, but whatever you have to say, Mark said, cutting him off with sudden urgency, say it clearly. No more excuses. Tom drew a breath, his shoulders dropping slightly. I came here because I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I want to be part of your life again. I realize now that I was running away when I should have been facing my own past. Those words hung in the air between them like an unbroken promise. Mark's emotions twisted, uncertainty battling with an urge for reconciliation. He glanced at Claire, who looked as shocked as he felt, and then at Lily, whose innocent visage only deepened his internal conflict. Can you really mean that? Mark asked. You chose to step away when we needed each other the most. Why would you think things could just return to normal? Tom's mouth formed a tight line, and for the first time, Mark noticed the cracks that resurfaced on his brother's face, signs of struggle and where that demeaned their family legacy. Because I've realized that family is worth fighting for, no matter how complicated it gets. I learned that the hard way. Mark's core trembled at the vulnerability in Tom's voice. Here was a part of his history that weighed them both down, a shared history fraught with complications and guarded feelings. He longed for companionship yet feared the potential turmoil it could unleash, especially now, as he and Claire were trying to rebuild. Lily watched, her youthful understanding seemingly reaching further than they anticipated. Can he stay with us? She asked, her tone sincere. He looks sad. Maybe he just needs love like we talked about. Claire's hand squeezed Mark's, an unspoken question forming in her eyes. This unexpected visitor could either disrupt their fragile momentum or create a space for healing. Mark's heart pounded as he contemplated his brother's presence. He felt inside the storm brewing, the pressure of their unresolved past threatened to erupt. Trust would not be easily restored, but could he allow this chance for redemption, not just for Tom, but for himself? Okay, Mark said slowly, realizing the enormity of the choice he was making. But we have to have an honest conversation. There are boundaries now. Tom nodded, a flicker of relief crossing his face. I understand. I promise to earn my way back. As they stood together, the weight of unspoken words between them felt like a shared burden. The path of healing stretched ahead, but as Mark looked at Tom, he recognized that reconciliation would demand honesty and courage in ways he hadn't expected. Just as he opened his mouth to invite Tom further inside, a subtle shift in Lily's demeanor drew his attention. What about Granddad? She asked, her brow furrowing as if connecting deep roots that in that moment, as the shadow of another revelation loomed, Mark felt dread wash over him. Had Tom come back to only unearth more family secrets? The realization hit hard. This journey was far from over, and clarity might not be what awaited him after all. Mark tried to ignore Lily's question, sensing it was the perfect trigger to further unravel his already frayed emotions. His gaze flicked from Tom to Claire, noting how they both processed the moment strain differently. He could see the confusion in Claire's eyes, a mix of concern for her partner and curiosity about Tom's intentions. What about Granddad? Lily repeated, her small voice breaking through the thick silence. Tom's expression shifted, revealing a flicker of dread. Granddad, he murmured, almost as if testing the weight of the name. He's not well, Mark. I thought you should know. The words settled heavily around Mark, igniting a spark of concern that raced through him. He had avoided thinking about their grandfather, the man who had remained a figure of stability throughout their childhood, now frail and possibly fading. The thought chipped away at his already thinning emotional defenses. Is he in the hospital? Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper as the fear trickled in. Tom shook his head. Not yet. But he's been talking about the past a lot. I think he's trying to make sense of things before it's too late. The implication hung like a storm cloud. Was that what prompted Tom's return? To seek forgiveness or absolution? Mark couldn't parse his brother's motivations in this moment. And you decided to come back because of that? I came back because I realized I can't run anymore, Mark. I owe you both of you more than I can repay, Tom said, glancing at Claire, whose brow had furrowed deeper. Mark turned away, finding it hard to maintain eye contact. The layers of guilt and resentment he had kept locked away now clamored for release. It's not just about being back. You need to understand that there are consequences. Consequences? Tom echoed, confusion lining his features. I'm ready to face them, whatever they are. Then let us start with the most obvious, Mark snapped, frustration leaking through his calm demeanor. You left us. You left me when we were kids knowing that we needed each other. And now you waltz back in, expecting things to be simple. Are you willing to face that? Mark's heart hammered in his chest. He wanted to scream, to shake Tom and make him understand the turmoil he had instigated, even from a distance. In a family that valued closeness, Tom had chosen silence time and time again. Claire stood still, her expression shifting from bewilderment to subtle gratitude at Mark's bravado. Mark, let us take a moment, she interjected gently. This is a lot for all of us. We need to approach this with care. Care? Mark shot back. What part of this is caring? I've felt nothing but abandonment. You're not the one who had to patch up the family's broken pieces. Tom's face crumpled, revealing the pain he had concealed. Maybe you're right. I wasn't there, and I can't change the past. But I want to understand it now, to honor it. I came here to confront my choices, and to reconcile with you. Mark faltered, caught off guard. There was a raw sincerity in Tom's words that made the chaotic emotions bubbling beneath the surface retreat for a moment. A small voice within him wished desperately to believe his brother. Yet, how could he just ignore the years of hurt? You want my forgiveness? Mark asked, defiance still laced in his words. This is the first step. Just showing up? Tom nodded, eyes pleading. Yes. I won't give up on you or this family. Not again. But I can't do it alone. I need you guys to let me back in to even consider helping me change. As silence enveloped them again, Mark felt the pressing weight of old narratives clawing to redefine themselves. Words danced dangerously at the edge of his lips, but he held back, feeling torn. What do you think, Claire? He finally queried, seeking her counsel. She took a deep breath, weighing her response carefully. I think they both need the opportunity to move forward, she said softly, but her gaze lingered on Mark. But we have to ensure it's on a foundation of honesty and respect. Amidst the turmoil, a glimmer of hope flickered. Could they truly reshape their story? Acceptance loomed in the air, but the danger of stagnation threatened as well. Mark steeled himself, acknowledging that a defining choice lay ahead not only for his brother but for himself. Suddenly, Lily chimed in, what about our family? Can we fix it? Mark's heart twisted painfully. Behind her innocent query lay a depth of understanding that even he struggled to grasp. As he met Tom's gaze, he sensed that perhaps, just perhaps, they were all teetering on the precipice of transformation. Maybe we can, Mark said slowly, his voice steadier than before. But it's going to take more than just words. It's going to demand all of us to face our truths. As Tom nodded earnestly, the weight of potential shifted in the room. They stood at a crossroads, with an uncharted road ahead. Each of them held a crucial piece to the puzzle of their collective fate. A jolt of realization struck Mark. The story of their family had been written in isolation until now. He had the power to rewrite it, but he would need to embrace discomfort to navigate the unknown ahead. Just as he felt some clarity settling in, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, yanking their focus. Startled, they rushed to investigate, uncertainty looming over what awaited them. The stakes had never been higher, but with this new reality unfolding, another layer of truth was waiting to be excavated. Mark's heart raced as he and the others rushed to the kitchen, apprehension jolting through him. The crash had been loud enough to suggest something significant had occurred, perhaps a breaking point or an unveiling of another hidden truth. He pushed through the doorway, and the mess that greeted him felt symbolically fitting. Fragments of shattered ceramic lay scattered across the linoleum floor, mirroring the current state of his family's dynamics. Are you all right? Claire asked, immediately moving toward the overturned chair that had fallen with the crushing noise. Mark's mind, however, was still reeling from the conversation with Tom. For the first time in years, a sliver of hope flickered, igniting debates in his mind on whether or not he could truly forgive his brother, a pillar he had dismissed for his perceived abandonment. Was this chaos in the kitchen a precursor for the chaos about to unfold in their hearts? Lily, honey, step back a bit, he said, instinctively positioning himself to shield her from any danger. As Lily stared wide-eyed, a tinge of confusion crossed her face. What is going on? Just a little accident, Claire assured her, but her smile didn't seem entirely convincing. Mark crouched down to gather pieces, feeling a need to act, to restore order in any way possible. His fingers brushed over the shards, sharp yet fragile, stark reminders of how their family had so easily been broken. There was a metaphor in that, though perhaps they could reassemble their past too, piece by piece, though it might cut them along the way. The air felt dense with unspoken tension. He turned away from the disarray and observed Tom standing aside, watching the scene unfold, almost in awe of the reality he had chosen to walk back into. Mark felt a flicker of defiance rise in him. Should he let his guard down and help Tom navigate this chaos? Or would he remain guarded and keep the blockade intact? Why did you really come back, Tom? Mark's voice sliced through the clutter of emotions hanging thick in the room, forcing clarity amidst the whirlwind of confusion. I told you, I'm ready to face my past, Tom replied steadily but with a hint of vulnerability, grounding himself amid the weight of Mark's probing gaze. Ready or not, it's more than just a reunion. You're the one who broke things. I understand that, Tom replied quietly. I wish I could go back and do it differently, but I can't change history. I can only confront it now. Mark's mind was ablaze, wrestling between yearning for connection and the fear of further betrayal. What if their conversation just moments ago had been a blind spot, another act in the theater of their family's unfurling. Could he lend Tom his trust again when every betrayal still played like a haunting refrain in his mind? You talk about confronting your choices, but have you thought about what that means? He pressed, his feelings distilling into a sharp edge of skepticism. It's going to take more than just words, Tom. It'll take actions real, painful, and often inconvenient. Tom nodded, understanding the weight of his brother's challenge. Then I'll do what it takes. I just need to be allowed to start somewhere. Mark rose to his feet, conflicted. A part of him wanted to scream out, "What makes you think you deserve a second chance?" But as he scanned the room, he was met by Lily's innocent face and Claire's steady caress of Tom's shoulder, comforting yet resolute. Could he rise above his resentment for her sake? The crash had drawn them all together against the backdrop of uncertainty. In seeing Lily's hopeful eyes, Mark recognized a truth he had been denying: this wasn't just about him. It was about the family they could still strive to forge. Mark inhaled deeply, resolving to stay present in the chaos, to embrace the discomfort rather than shy away. "All right then," he said, determination creeping into his voice. "Let us start with the kitchen. If we can't fix this, how can we fix anything else?" As they began to clean up the remnants of the shattered dish, Mark realized the journey ahead promised not only to be challenging but necessary. He could harness the pain as a catalyst for growth, for understanding. Just as he felt more grounded, the sound of their grandfather's familiar, melodic voice reached them from the other room, murmuring snippets of old family stories. The weight of nostalgia collided with Mark's resolve. This was where they needed to begin. But even as he steeled himself to face both the past and the uncertain future, another crash echoed through the house, this time more urgent. Mark's stomach knotted. Something told him the next revelation would shake them even further. He squared his shoulders and pressed on, knowing the journey into the depths of their familial history was only just beginning. Mark stood in the middle of the living room, a battleground of emotions and revelations swirling around him. Lily's innocent curiosity had thrust him into a complicated redemption arc, but here, on the brink of chaos, he clung tightly to the hope of moving forward. This wasn't just about mending fractured relationships, it was a chance to reclaim fractured identities strewn across years of family neglect. Tom's return had been a disorienting jolt, but as Mark picked up the shattered remnants from the kitchen floor, he began to perceive the disarray as an opportunity, a prompt for a transformation long overdue. "We'll rebuild, right?" Mark declared, establishing a mental barrier against his swirling doubts. His voice rose above the clattering of porcelain, the determination ringing clear in the air. As he felt Claire slide beside him and share the burden of rebuilding, he recalled the very first moment he'd understood the essence of being a father. The instantaneous weight of love he'd held for Lily when she was born had forged a bond that defied words. This moment blurred familial boundaries and opened the door to intertwined healing. "Let us not just clean up the mess but also address what caused it," Mark said firmly. Their past, unsteady and raw, wove through every thread of this moment. It was time to encounter the complexities together, starting with the shards of their histories. "Together," Claire echoed, looking tentatively at Tom. The sincerity in her gaze thawed some of the apprehensions that clung between them. "If we can face our brokenness, maybe we can rebuild on something stronger." Lily's gaze shifted from her mother to her uncle, a bridge unexpectedly forming over the chasm of grief that had once defined their relationships. She stepped forward, her voice gentle yet assertive. "Can I help with the cleaning? I want to make it right, too." Mark's heart warmed at her instinctually nurturing spirit, a reflection of the understanding that they were all flawed yet capable of mending together. "Absolutely, sweetheart. With our combined strength, we can turn this mess into something new." The act of coming together, scrubbing away the remnants of the past, galvanized the group into action. With each piece of broken dish picked up, new convolutions of understanding began to emerge. Mark felt the tightness in his chest loosening. This was not about erasing mistakes but rather transforming them into steps forward. "Tom," Mark began deliberately, nervous energy tingling at the edges of their encounter. "About before. The conversations we need to have, they delve far deeper than sweet words. They require commitment." "I know," Tom said softly, meeting Mark's gaze full on for what felt like the first time. I'm willing to face it all, especially the pain I caused you. Silence filled the air as the weight of the statement settled into the fabric of their interactions. Mark recognized the rare honesty in Tom's tone, an acknowledgement of past neglect that had perpetuated within their family legacy. Lily was carefully separating the broken fragments into neat piles, her curiosity transforming the situation into a lesson in resilience. Mark marveled at her, grateful that this moment was not solely about patching wounds but also paving pathways for future generations. Together, he whispered to himself, solidifying the commitment to thread honesty through the tapestry of their family. As the night continued, the atmosphere shifted. With Tom engaging on an emotional level, Mark felt a palpable movement toward reconciliation. They began to share stories that bore their weight, his memories haunted by childhood expectations, Tom revealing the struggles of distancing himself from family chaos. Each narrative exchange became a bridge, strengthening the fragile connections they were attempting to forge anew. You don't have to shoulder this alone, Mark remarked at one moment of vulnerability, prompting a wave of surprising empathy to crest over him. I know now what it means to be there for someone, truly be there. Tom nodded, an understanding passing between them, an acknowledgement that this was a shared journey. The revelation propelled Mark into recognizing that this healing could encompass not only their estrangement but also their identities as fathers. The legacy passed on to Lily, ready to flourish. Their conversation flowed seamlessly, unveiling ghosts they had long kept buried, the labyrinth of familial roles tangled with guilt, disappointment, and the yearning for connection. With every shared truth, Mark discovered a growing reservoir of strength within, the same strength he strove to cultivate in Lily. In that moment, amidst the shattered pieces they had swept aside, Mark had transcended his prior identity as just a carpenter. He was fostering a renewed family narrative, empowering their past struggles to shape stronger futures. As the evening drew to a close, the air felt lighter, tangible threads of honesty weaving through the remnants of pain into a newfound fabric of connection. Your granddad needs to know that we're ready to embrace our truth, Mark said, standing tall, established in a solid confidence bolstered by clarity. He felt anchored, no longer burdened by the shadows of his past but enlightened by the resolve to reshape their legacy together. Driven by purpose, he turned to Tom. Let us visit tomorrow. Taking that step may open yet another channel for healing and togetherness. The moment felt pivotal, not merely for reconciling with Tom or embracing familial wounds, but for celebrating the deep connection to Lily that flourished amid the storm. Mark's heart surged with an unwavering confidence. This was the beginning of their transformation. Tomorrow, Tom echoed, his voice steady, I'll be there. And with that mutual promise, the horizon brightened. A path forged by determination and shared commitment lay ahead. This was their moment to define not just who they were, but who they chose to become. Now, don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Hit like now to feed the algorithm with your support. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to act now to uplift and empower others who are navigating their own journeys of personal overcoming.